and good luck to him.
Let's have a word then with someone who's met him, Lee Spencer from Yelverton, a former Royal Marine, who describes Harry as a personal friend. Great to have you on, Lee. Good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
All right, thank you. Wow. So, I mean, we never thought, things would come to this when Invictus Games started back in 2014 when you met him, that, there would be such a furore over Harry. What have you made of it all?
Well, I completely understand people's comments just then, listening to them, because it is quite emotive. There's a lot of love for the royal family, our royal family, and I can understand people thinking that he's been disloyal to them. So I totally understand the level of, disappointment in some people, but I see it from a completely different side, because I actually know him and I've seen the difference he's made in lots of my friends' lives. Within the wounded and injured former military personnel community, we're very protective of him, and we see it completely different. A lot of people there were saying that he's been disloyal. The family have said nothing. He should have, kept things. He shouldn't have aired his dirty linen in public, essentially. But I think what came across last night in the interview was that he's been quiet the whole time. And okay, there isn't any official, statements by the press, but they've got, Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace. They've got these huge media departments that, almost on an industrial scale, are briefing, leaking, planting constantly. And all we've heard since Friday, when the first leaks from his book came out, all we've heard is, of course, we've only got Harry's side of the story, because there isn't an official, from Buckingham Palace, an official statement. But although there hasn't been an official statement, absolutely 100%, their media teams have been working overtime. So you are getting, although it's not official, you are getting, and we have had that side of the story constantly. And I see this as Harry saying, well, this isn't fair. I should get my side of the story out there. So I actually see it differently.
You're a former Royal Marine, you're an incredible guy, single leg amputee, 4 world records, solo rode the Atlantic, beat an able-bodied record. What you've done is absolutely incredible. How much sort of support did Harry give you, and what kind of things has he said to you along your journey with Invictus?
Well, that's it's very kind of you to say, firstly, thank you very much. But that's where the support for Harry from those of us that were injured comes from, really, because of what Harry has done. I can tell you absolutely, and tell your listeners, that the Invictus Games, he wasn't just a figurehead for that. He drove that. It was his idea. It was his passion. And I know personally lots of wounded, injured service men and women who've had their lives transformed so positively by that. And I know people who talk about not being here if it wasn't for the positivity that Invictus gave their lives after becoming injured. And it means that much to them. They were in such a bad place. They said they wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for Invictus. And myself personally, when I lost my leg, I was someone who defined themselves. I was a Royal Marines commando. I defined myself by what I could do physically. And then that whole part of your life gets taken away. But I was given the opportunity to row the Atlantic the first time by the Endeavour Fund, which was part of the Royal Foundation, but it was Harry's idea. Harry drove it, and Harry pushed it and was the passion behind it. And the Endeavour Fund put up a lot of the money that it cost for me to actually row the Atlantic the first time. And rowing the Atlantic the first time, getting that incredible opportunity, it changed my life as dramatically as losing my leg. It honestly did, but in a totally positive way. And that is 100% down to Harry.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good to hear. He's under the spotlight because obviously they've got to fund their security, they've got to fund their lifestyles. They're being paid an awful lot of money for the interviews and for the book. The only bit I thought was the reconciliation between him and his brother that he wants to happen and his father. And Tom Bradby did make this point in the interview. Surely that's going to be more difficult now that he's come out and said what he said.
Yeah, and I completely understand that. But what do you do? Put yourself in that situation. And again, this is only my opinion. And I know lots of people. It's a very emotive subject because it's our royal family, and I can understand people who feel differently to me. And I would never say to anyone, "You shouldn't believe what you believe. You should believe what I believe." But if my opinion, this is only my opinion. If you put yourself in his position, then you know you have a right to say your truth. You know, it's he's had. I mean, we can only you only need to look at the newspapers and see the hatchet job they've done on his wife. If you look at the way they portray Kate and the way they portray Meghan, it's almost like a Disney cartoon. One's the Wicked Witch of the West, and the other one is this pure Sleeping Beauty princess. And that isn't real life. It's not real. So you can see constantly, as he said, over the last 6 years, the constant hammering he's had. And the revelation for me was that the palace were complicit in that. And if
Okay.
the palace were complicit in that, then he has every right to say, well, no, that's not true. This is true. This is my side of the story. And sometimes you can't have a reconciliation unless the air's cleared, unless there's truth spoken. So I can actually understand that you know why he's done that and still wants to reconcile with his dad and his brother.
We're still waiting to see the translation of the book, and it's out tomorrow, and it's been released in Spain. What do you make? I'd be interested with you as a former Royal Marine. It wasn't touched upon in the interview last night, but of the suggestion about the 25 sort of Taliban kills. What was your take when you heard that? And as I said, we are still waiting to see the full translation of the book.
Well, there's actually, if people Google it, there is the context surrounding the 25. It's out there on the internet, and what you've got to and actually, a lot of friends have contacted me, really angry at some of the comments from senior military officers that have been on the news and in the paper calling Harry out on this. Firstly, um, it's a lie to say that we in the British military are trained to see enemy as humans and not targets. That is a complete and utter lie. And you need, go right back to watching Zulu over Christmas and seeing Colour Sergeant Bull mark your target as it comes, going through to First World War aces, flying planes against the Germans, to the Second World War aces. They're tallying up the amount of enemy that they've killed, to snipers, and loads of books. And in particular, some of the people who've been commenting, some of those senior officers, they've actually got books out themselves. They've published books where they've got numbers of Taliban killed by men under their command, and in some circumstances have actually named those men. So that is a complete lie. The other thing is those 25, if you read that in context, Harry was a Apache pilot, so he never had another human being in his crosshairs. Every time he pulled the trigger, it was on a computer screen, in a helicopter, probably a kilometre away from that person. So when he talks about he just saw him as a chess piece on a board, it's in that context. It's in not seeing them as a human because they're just a target on a computer screen. And the other thing is about the 25. Everything an Apache helicopter does is recorded. So every movement, every action, and every time he pulled the trigger, it would have been recorded. So he did have, and he would have had, whether he liked it or not, a number. So it's not a case of him keeping a personal tally. That was a number that was there, and is, can't be argued. Not can't be argued with. It wasn't one that he kept. He wasn't keeping a personal tally. That was kept for him within the records of flying Apache missions.
Lee, thanks so much for coming on for us this morning and giving your thoughts on it. When he's going to be under fire, we know that. We can hear, the way that the press have handled it this morning. You just have to look at the front pages this morning as well, and just some of the ill feeling that's out there towards him at the moment. Thank you for coming on and giving us your view. We really appreciate it.
No, well, thank you for. I think that the those of us that think Harry's an actual good guy, we don't often get the opportunity in the media in general to come on and give his side of the story. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Have a good day, Lee.
You too. Cheers. Bye now.
Cheers. Take care.